Hi, dear friends. Mom podcast is online, the second episode in our series where we are interviewing the CEOs of successful companies in AI tech space. Today we have Soren Bradbury as the guest, CEO of Digica. Soren, hi, how are you doing? Where are you calling from?
Hi, thank you for inviting me. Doing really well. It's early morning here. It's just gone 9 o'clock. I'm in San Francisco, enjoying great weather rather than the weather that I would be enjoying in the UK. So life's quite good at the moment.
Great, awesome. That's pleasure to hear. I think you, me, and our viewers are really excited to talk about how AI is affecting the operations in the companies and especially the big ones like Digica.
Yeah.
Therefore, perhaps you can just say a couple of sentences on what Digica is doing and what are your priorities now.
Okay, sure. So Digica is a AI software services company. We focus on working with customers to evaluate their problems, understand how AI could potentially help them design and build an application using AI, and then implement it into their system. So that could be anything from computer vision, looking at manufacturing, whether it's looking at um, items going through under on a production line and looking for errors and looking for anomalies in the products going through. It could be using AI to interpret cancer data and try to identify cancer issues. It could be anything from also improving workflows. So anything from looking at um, looking at work coming into a call center, for example, and using computer vision and NLP and machine learning to understand what it's actually for, process it, etc., and then correctly identify whether that is a claim that's covered or claim that's not covered. So a whole range of things from improving productivity to improving quality to improving health.
Hmm. And uh, and can you say that you have some industry as your main one, or do you have
So
equal amount of projects across all of those?
we're very much focused on health. So medical is a core kind of area of the company. Another part of the company is very much focused on defense. And third party is kind of focused very much on manufacturing. So smart manufacturing, medical, defense are kind of three kind of key areas. There are some obviously which fall outside of that, but in essence, that's where the majority of our customers sit.
Hmm. I understand. And For me, as the AI developer, I'm just curious in the technical landscape, for which of these industries is it the most difficult to develop solutions?
Well, obviously, defense is very difficult because of the levels of security that are required. Um, so that's quite a challenge. But where a lot of the stuff that we're doing in medicine is cutting edge. So that's kind of really pushing those technologies, whether it's spinal surgery, whether it's cancer detection, etc. A lot of them are pushing the very much edges of our capabilities within AI. So I would say that the most advanced is probably in medical, along with defense, and then manufacturing is far more of a proven case study, and there's really good use cases that you can be implementing stuff which is on today's production lines in factories across the world.
Hmm. Yeah, I did have this supposition, but yeah, you confirmed it that defense seems to be the most requiring out of all industries. And And yeah, as you have said, you're based in San Francisco, but are you working around the globe or just in some particular countries?
So the company Digica is headquartered in the UK. So we have a team up in Manchester, is where the headquarters are. We're a team of about 50 engineers, split between the UK and Poland in Łódź, which is a city just to the west of Warsaw. So that's where our technical teams are all sitting. And I'm here in San Francisco along with a colleague called Ben, because about 6% of our revenue comes from North America. So we sell into Europe as well as North America. Um, and of course, San Francisco is a hub of innovation and great ideas and where new things are happening. So we're based over here, but majority of our engineers are based in UK and in Poland, and we're looking like we're just going to be putting a couple of engineers over in the US because the client is requiring that they work on health data, which can't be left the US, so they need to be physically in the US to actually work on that project.
Hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. But I was very surprised with the little percentage of revenue coming from North America because
No, 60.
60. Oh, okay. I've heard six.
No,
Oh,
no,
now
six.
okay.
I wouldn't
Mm,
be doing a very good job if I was only doing 6% of the revenue.
mm. Then my next question would be only where where else like if not in the North America. All right. All right. So Digica both specializes in software solutions as well as robotics, or am I being wrong?
Yeah, so we're kind of very much we're focused on around computer vision and predictive maintenance are the two kind of very core features of the company, and that's where our history has been. And of course, over the last 2 years, LLMs have also been evolving in that, etc. So computer vision, which of course helps with robotics. So we've been working with a number of robotics companies, working on the computer vision from a very cool kind of Swiss robotics company that were building robots that go into areas that humans shouldn't go to because the environment's quite not conducive to good health. And we're putting the working with a robotics company, not so much on the actual robotics, but the computer vision elements of it. So helping the robot read dials, understand what information it's seeing on the various equipment in this environment. So everything from looking at valves, looking at gauges, reading information, and being able to interpret it and feed it back.
Hmm. And actually, I can see on the agenda of our podcast is that we are getting closer to the topic of the state of AI and machine learning today. And I think that it's going to be a very seamless transition because I would love to ask, mm, did the quality of Digica services got uh, get better after the advancements in the level of intelligence of the models? So every two, like it was every half a year, but now it feels like every 3 to 4 months there is this new iteration of models. So OpenAI is releasing new either new family of models at all, like all models, or then new groundbreaking O3 model, etc. The competitors from other countries are also deploying some awesome solutions. So again, keeping it concise, have these advancements benefited the quality of Digica solutions?
Um, yes and no. Sometimes when I'm speaking with the tech teams about a solution, Sometimes they quite often recommend very classic solutions. So actually, you can do quite a bit with classic computer vision, and there's no need sometimes to go and choose the most expensive, the most advanced solution to achieve a set requirement. So we kind of apply that technology that gives the customer the best results. So it does improve the quality of the ultimate solution. The cameras that you can use and the new technologies, the new algorithms that are coming out are very key. But one of the things that doesn't change is it's the quality of the data. So very much how you're training that model. So you can take the same model, you and I could have the same model, and the skill of the data scientist is going to be in terms of configuring it and also training it with the relevant data. So that will be the big difference between them. So that's something that we pay a lot of attention to, and that's what really good, I think, AI companies are spending their time and effort on making sure that the data that they're training gives the right level of detection or whatever.
So it's not about the width of AI models, so ability to, let's say, be competent in many areas, but rather the precision in the particular problem, which can be achieved by rather fine-tuning. So training on the specific examples. So as you mentioned, perhaps for cancer detection, that's the X-ray pictures, or for defense, it can be something very interesting because nothing pops up to my mind, but perhaps detecting some objects which must be, yeah, which needs
Drone
to be
detection.
detected.
Drone
hmm
detection is a good example. And you know, the LLMs are getting bigger and bigger, and the number of parameters is getting massive. A lot of the applications that we work on are on the edge, so you don't have that massive processing capability. And sometimes, if your use case is very contained, you don't need to have multi-billion parameter LLM sitting there, which can handle everything that could be possibly asked for in an encyclopedia if its only task is to look at this particular problem. So if it's only looking at um, a very, very focused solution that's required, you don't need to have a LLM which has got billions upon billions of parameters and needs to be run in the cloud on AWS or Azure or Google Cloud. It can quite happily just run on a very small GPU sitting locally, or even run on a camera or whatever. So it's very much a matter of choosing the right technology for that solution. You don't need to always have the biggest, the best, the most modern, the most sexiest item to do something which is maybe just purely looking at how many sesame seeds are on a bun that's going down the production line. Um, it's still of great value to the customer to actually make sure that their buns are coming down down the line, and they have the right number of sesame seeds on them, because otherwise they'll be put into to the bin for scrap. But you don't need to have the latest and best solution, and you're just paying for a lot of processing overhead that you don't actually need.
Yeah, I understand. And when you have all these systems set up, it can be more costly to reorganize them than even get that certain fraction of improvement. And also, I think I just would love to, as well as our viewers, I'm sure would love to know your opinion on that. Perhaps what is really good for software businesses like Digica, in fr how the popularity of these new models, O3 from OpenAI or DeepSeek or Grok from Elon Musk. What it is doing really well is it attracts the attention of the market towards AI, and people, even though start with just well, quite often people start just with fear, something like AI will replace all of us, etc., etc., etc. But then people realize that at least some of the people realize that AI can actually be used for automation of quite a lot of processes, and not just automation, but sometimes even enhancement because of how surprisingly good it is sometimes, and it, uh, it must do a great job of putting the spotlight on the industry where Digica operates in. So can you say that as this AI trend gone has gotten bigger and bigger in the news, the amount of business has grown? Was there this
Yes.
correlation?
So as you said, AI is everywhere now, and you just talk to someone who's not passionate about technology, and you say to them AI, and they say, "Oh yeah, I heard there's AI on my phone, and there's AI everywhere." So the word AI is really good, and that it's kind of created, as you said, these large language models, started with ChatGPT, kind of really exploded onto the marketplace, and suddenly moved AI from being maybe something that the CTOs would have understood. Hey, let's do a computer vision project. Let's do some other project. All of a sudden, it's now become de facto. And certainly, when I've been talking for the last 2 weeks, I've been speaking to a lot of manufacturing companies, quality control, engineering managers in manufacturing companies, which are not the top end of technology, but they are all looking for, hey, what can AI do for us to give us a competitive advantage in our manufacturing versus the competition? Are we going to be falling behind? And certainly, I think in 2023 and definitely in 2024, a lot of the time that we spent was on educating people in industry. What is actually AI? What can it do? I think that some people still think it can send a man to Mars just using AI. It will be wonderful. Well, actually, do you know what? There are real tangible things that can be done in the business that can be addressed and implemented today, which will deliver a very powerful return on investment and move that company's performance up, and make them more competitive in the marketplace. And as you said, there's things which are um, challenging that potentially could reduce jobs. But a good example is something that I read in the paper only a couple of weeks ago. The National Health Service in the UK, when they look at radiology reports and images on cancer detection, they always have two radiologists. So person A and person B, just in case person A misses something, person B would pick it up. Um, And what they actually are able to do now, they actually believe that they will be using AI as one of those people and still have a human in the loop as the second person. So you could think that that might make radiologists redundant, but we've actually got a shortage of them. And it isn't a matter of being able to easily train them to add add more people into the system. So the AI is basically doubling the workforce, and is able to process the number of cases they review, and double it. So it's really quite powerful, I think, in the way that some of the AI elements are helping humankind actually be a better place, and it is reducing some elements of um, repetitive kind of jobs, but in other elements, it's kind of actually helping improve the quality and actually allowing us to process those scans so much quicker. So then, should there be a cancer detected, at least that surgery can happen or that treatment can happen so much faster. And, hopefully then that person will have a higher chance of recovery and living a longer life.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And have you seen particularly in the medical industry, has the integration of AI solutions increased the success of surgeries or accuracy of mm, diagnosis detection? Has have there be have there been some successes in this area?
Yeah, so even let me take that surgery kind of challenge to a much lower level in terms of cost of surgery. So I'm living here in the US where one has to pay for that cost, and that cost is often picked up by the state in the UK and in Europe, but there's still a cost. So whether it's me personally paying or the state paying for operations. And we were working with a really innovative startup company that's focusing on computer vision for orthopedic tools. So these orthopedic tools are are everything from hammer almost through to a drill and various things. And they come in a toolbox, and um, the toolbox arrives at the at the hospital.
Doorstep.
So the surgeon says, "Hey, we're doing the knee operation, whatever," and is expecting to say, "Hey, give me the XYZ tool, etc." That happens. Sometimes they look in the box and they say, "Well, that particular tool isn't here," and then they go out of the operating theatre, try to find the right tool, get it sterilised and brought in. And all the time, you've obviously got a patient sitting 10 minutes more in the operating theatre. You've got the surgeon tied up for 10 minutes, but he can't do anything, and you've got an anaesthetist, etc. So those costs are massively impacted in the running of that operation. So you could actually maybe potentially run two more operations a day if you run that much smoother. So they're using computer vision just to take a picture of the tray. Great, that's the tray XYZ from Johnson and Johnson. It should have these items in. I see all those items, or maybe those items are put on top of each other, just like you and I wouldn't be able to say,
Yeah,
"Oh, I'm not sure." So you'll
yeah.
pick up one of them and it'll say, "Hey, Max, pick up this and have a look underneath it and see if it's there." Or maybe I can't see if that's a 3.3 or a 3.2 millimeter drill. We visually can't tell either. And the only way you're telling is the little engraving to saying 3.3 or 3.2. So, hey, Max, take it out and rotate the so I can see whether the engraving is there. So not only are they looking at reducing or improving the operational efficiency in the theatre, it's also a lot of um, lost uh, tools and inventory that sits around in the whole process. And I can't remember the top of the numbers, so apologies, Max, but it's of the billions of dollars that are sitting there, of inventory that's sitting in there. And they've done the analysis that they reckon they can take out about 20% of the inventory that's sitting around. That's a sort of saving of at least of a magnitude of about $2 or $3 billion out of the healthcare system. So that money could be released and
Hmm.
lower the cost, whether I'm paying for it or the state is paying for it. We're still all paying for it in taxes, etc., either personally or for it. So um, I see very much AI can drive such efficiencies in those elements, as well as, of course, the higher end of medical research and the when drug testing and it being able to accelerate drug testing so much faster. But I certainly see it on all aspects, right from very simplistic operational challenges in medical treatment, which I've just outlined, through to the kind of the higher end of drug drug testing and creation and improving the performance of operations.
So essentially, at every stage of the treatment, AI can be somehow integrated, and it has very, very dramatic positive effect, both in terms of the success rate of surgeries, even though
Yeah,
we didn't talk about this a lot, but also in terms of mm, optimization of operations.
indeed.
Correct? That's cool. And actually, that was interesting to find out how Digica utilizes AI in its solutions. But but how do you use AI within your company to again optimize operations and just get the use of this groundbreaking technology?
Sorry, Max, I missed that question. So how do we? I missed a bit from how do we?
How do you use the AI within Digica? So within internal operations.
Okay, so everything from the team will use AI to improve our own internal processes. Is that what you're asking for?
Yes, yes. So perhaps you optimize communication within your teams, or you use it for faster product prototyping.
Yeah. So everything that from the very traditional. I've written some code. I ask you to review it. Um, Maybe I'm a coder that is working at 3 o'clock in the morning, and you've decided to have a social life and are in bed. So I can use the LLM to review my code. You can help it to ask them to help it to write your code in the first instance, but it still doesn't replace the need to understand how to write code and what is good and bad code. But it works very much in terms of helping to review that. We use it on our sales and marketing, so we're starting to use that on email. Um, and the cold outreach elements to do it. So we're using AI in our own processes as well, from a technical point of view to to sales and marketing. Is where we're helping with using AI to help ourselves on our internal processes.
Hmm. And do you use AI to personalize cold outreach? You
To
mentioned, or
Yes, yes. So
Mhm.
we're looking at we're using AI to um, find customers who been very successful on customer type of X. Let me find lots of customers who have got the similar type of things. Can I put something together? Can I write that element? I mean, if I'm finishing a meeting and I've written up like you do, use AI to record the meeting and give you a summary of that meeting kind of stuff. You look at that. Sometimes it's absolutely pinpoint accurate. Sometimes it's missing kind of key nuances, etc. So you kind of put your own notes in there, and then, hey, write me a quick email to say thank you, Max, for the meeting. These are the items, etc. You review that, and then you start to put it into a workflow, which kind of automates and start to look at what is actually happening here. You can start to use AI to look at social markers in terms of people doing things and start putting elements together. So you can use that in the outreach element of it, as well as I said to you, internal processing.
Mhm.
And I saw quite an interesting thing which I quite liked. There was nothing that we were involved in, but here in the valley, I went to a meetup about a couple of months ago, and there was a really interesting startup that had created a virtual lawyer and a virtual judge. So that the virtual lawyer really was a matter of trying to reduce costs for people to get access to high quality legal advice. So you kind of submit your complaints, etc., and it will then advise you. I think you've got a case, and here's how to structure it, etc. But I love the way that they're taking it to another level, and they were actually creating a virtual judge. So then this judge would then, as a lawyer, you would pitch your case to it, and it would then say, "Hey, I think I'm going to come down in favor of you or not again." And then they were even trying to put into the context of this is Judge A, B, and C. This is how they've ruled in the past, and so
Wow.
therefore, if I've got Judge A coming up,
I mean,
I might fail, and I need to change the way I'm presenting my case and arguing my case versus Judge D. And I thought that was quite an interesting kind of use case and some quite kind of innovative ideas of how they were doing that. So there's some really kind of I see a lot of opportunities for some other lots of industries. We talked about manufacturing, but I quite like the whole thing about the arguing the case. And I saw that I'm in this alliance of CEOs, and one of the guys there said that one he had spent quite a bit of time was preparing for his investors board meeting, and one of the things he always does is throws his investors board meeting up into the LLM and ask it to give him the most challenging questions possible that his investors would give. So he's then really, really well prepared for them. And it's just like that whole thing of asking someone else to peer review your code. You're asking the LLM to say, "Hey, look at my board pack, look at my previous
yeah,
board packs, and what are the type of questions they're going to ask?" And maybe then if you could use that judge kind of scenario, that you could end up having this is investor A who's always asking about the money and da da da. Here's investor B who's looking at the blue sky kind of stuff. Give me this type of questions. Give me the questions that the real gotcha kind of questions that these people will come up with. So that's quite a really useful kind of way of helping on processes, which is kind of very easy to do and simple. Where you're using AI, which is the back end, which is highly complex and well trained, and you're not involved in that bit, but you're just using prompt engineering to kind of give you those questions and answers, which I think is really quite cool.
it definitely is, especially with these advanced voice AI solutions. You are able to mimic the actual scenarios like almost to the T, so very accurately. And it actually can go to some next level. I mean, you said that your colleague is literally role playing his better board meetings, but I have my other client who has done impressive thing. He loves the teachings of Seth Godin, the
Hmm.
the marketing expert, and he essentially created the mentor in his pocket. So he has set it up in such a way that there is completely, the voice of Seth Godin completely um, imitated, and the LLM has access to hours of his content, just compressed, and whenever my client has the question, he's able to get almost a direct response. That's another type of case, but your colleague could even somehow imitate the voices of those people he is presenting to on his meetings, and it can be just again the next level, literally playing out the real world scenario just with
Yeah, and it
AI.
suddenly and it also makes that access to that knowledge far more available to everyone
Hmm.
because I can't afford to get Seth Godin to kind of speak to me personally. But if I've got the Seth Godwin AI version as a marketing mastermind, it's suddenly available to me for $5, for example, or whatever that kind of charges. And I see that, I was speaking to someone only a couple of weeks ago who's on the legal side, but there were, I don't know, the 10 best lawyers for one particular very, 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 very niche
Niche.
kind of area of law. And it's not something that you would need to have someone in-house in your legal team, but if this case particularly came up, you would probably search out these 10 world-renowned kind of person. And this one particular person was, I think, at Oxford University. Um, and they were looking at saying, hey, can I get this LLM? This person has written, obviously, I think about 100 papers in their life, but about 12 of these papers have been written around this one particular aspect of law. And then could I then, as a law firm, access this professor's virtual professor, get some advice and guidance, etc., and then decide if I do want to go and pay, I don't know what this guy charges, but let's just say $2,000 an hour, or I could simply have this as a service that I pay $1,000 a month for, and I can use it and get X amount of hours, etc., if I need it, and then if I want to, I can go and pay the premium to actually have the virtual the real lawyer.
Yeah. And did they end up replacing him, or was it just a concept?
No, they're trying to do it. They haven't yet. They were trying to get seed funding for it, etc. But the concept they were floated, um, and they were looking at trying to how they do that. So just trying to get some seed funding together to actually kick that project off. But yeah, it's all kind of bringing in. I think it democratizes knowledge, so it isn't just available just to the most wealthy. It suddenly becomes available to a much, much wider
Hmm.
size of the population, which I think is a good thing. And I think that's part and parcel of what, everything from the web through to AI is kind of helping to do that. And I think that's the type of stuff which I think is going to make the big positive impact on in the world.
Well, it definitely is already doing. I mean, even, well, it's not AI, but even the fact that we have this conversation, just being thousands of miles apart, but almost like sitting in the one room, if only I had better
Indeed.
microphone. Yeah, all right,
Cool.
all right. And you mentioned that in Digica you use AI to mm, improve cold outreach, also to get reviews of the code. Are there any other ways, or mm,
Um, no, I mean we're obviously building a lot of tech ourselves. We have our AI SDK where we're kind of putting in key elements of that. That could be anything from synthetic data, for example. So the concept originally was that we would put things into our AI SDK of processes, which would then help us accelerate projects. So we would then use that AI functionality in multiple projects. So we kind of built a synthetic data generation part of our AI SDK, and that sits in there. And when we have a synthetic data requirement in a project, maybe we're needing to create on a production line, for example, anomalies in. Let me take that very simplistic thing of the sesame buns which are going down. So I've got some real footage of the perfect sesame buns, but I don't have all the edge cases, and they probably can't give me a picture of it, but it looks like if it's been burnt, the sesame bun has been burnt or the sesame seeds have been burnt, etc. But if I can then synthetically create that burger bun and give it a burn mark on it and show it with only 5 sesame seeds, or I don't know, something else has appeared on there. Poppy seeds have appeared rather than sesame seeds. I can order that all synthetically, and I can use our AI SDK to kind of do that. So we're trying to accelerate our speed to market on various projects by reusing parts of the AI SDK, which helps then accelerate those AI projects much faster and at a lower price to our customers.
Yeah, that totally makes sense, and it can be, I don't know, perhaps that's already what you are offering to mm, clinics, but it can be like the whole other, maybe not clinics, but rather laboratories to generate the synthetic data, because that's what well, I I will be I'm not scientist to just say for sure, but I've heard that actually getting samples is quite often the thing which takes up the biggest amount of time when conducting some researches and iterating them. So I think generation of synthetic data could really benefit those.
Yeah, so a good example of that was we helped a customer that was just launching a doorbell camera. So the first kind of task was people detection. People detection was almost provided out of the box with their camera that they were buying in their doorbell camera. Very basic. It kind of worked. We helped improve it a little bit, so it improved slightly. But what they also wanted to do was put package detection, but they had a lack of video of packages being delivered, etc. So the team used the AI SDK to build a synthetic package training data. We then trained it on that element, and now it's being tested in the real world. It's like one of the most highest performing doorbell cameras for package detection. So this is the type of thing that can help customers do that. So you've got those edge cases, elements that we were talking about with the sesame buns. Show me what it looks like if it's been burnt on the edges. It's
Mhm.
never happened before, but hey, guess what? It'll happen tomorrow. But there'll be a burnt one will come through. I've got
Yeah.
no pictures of it, so how do I do that? And including that, right at the beginning, I was talking about these orthopedic tools that are in the box. So you could take a picture of them, but most of the pictures are being taken with a mobile phone. So you try in the app to try and say, hey, try and take it at 90 degrees. But you know what? People kind of just turn the phone and
Yeah.
poor lighting. It's a really sunny day and there's sunlight streaming across. Well, you're never going to get enough real photos with those variances in. So you use the synthetic data to kind of give you all those variations. So you can take a picture, say, hey, look, now show me that same tool, but instead of at 90 degrees, at 60 degrees, at 45 degrees, etc. So then you can synthetically quickly manipulate that and create that, which would have taken days of someone shooting something in, in a
Yeah,
in a
yeah,
laboratory.
totally. Yeah, exactly. So you, the the researchers can get samples to work with insanely fast,
Yes.
and the quality of these samples can be huge. Actually, it's a bit scary. So basically, not scary, but very unusual. And for us humans, everything new and unusual seems scary. So it's basically the fact that AI can not only mm, evaluate the data and get some findings out of it, but it can generate it, and then out of what it has generated itself, it can get certain insights. It's uh, it's almost like a closed loop and
Yeah,
like spiral, which is where human is just needed for like slight supervision. I mean, for now, for now.
indeed.
That's that's interesting. That's very interesting, and mm, that's that's pleasure to be able to live in this area because not area in this age because that's incredible that people even who lived 200 years ago they didn't have even the fraction of information and I would say power even in some way, what some just common citizen in the first world has nowadays. So yeah, yeah, I don't want to get too abstract and philosophical. I rather would love to also ask, with all these wonderful and interesting things happening around us, what are the plans of Digica? Are there any strategies or some particular projects which your company is going to undertake, or maybe some plans, goals for the next, I don't know, year, 5 years, 3 years, whatever is time horizon?
Um, I think what we're trying to do is we're trying to get AI implemented in companies, practical AI, I guess I would call it, which helps customers achieve better efficiencies, better performance. Um, so it's probably not quite as highfalutin and that we want to kind of evolve the world of AI to something the next level of it. We're very much more on the implementation side of it. So we're doing practical AI solutions
Okay,
which deliver a return on investment, make a difference to healthcare or defense or manufacturing today, um, and are realistic and can be implemented in 3 months to get a result out and get a return on investment. So I think that kind of our passion is to try to accelerate AI and make AI accessible and understandable for more companies and more people so that they can start to use it today because the technology is moving, as you said, at such a rate, and it's important that it does, and it's phenomenal, and I'm really super excited over it doing this here. But the rest of the population aren't moving at that same rate, and so what ends up happening is just that it becomes a kind of a void in between. So very much our focus is on how do we help a manufacturing company who does a really great job of operating their factories and producing products and for the consumers. How do we help them maximize their capability today with AI? So we design an application, we understand with them what they do, we design that application, and then we implement it, support it, and see their return on investment. So that's our kind of very much our vision. There's elements of that. If I take, for example, we're working with a high-end tech company that are manufacturing small but highly expensive and technically challenging products, and they're using carbon fiber. And they, when you lay out the carbon fiber, you've got to put it into to bake into an oven, and they've got some ovens which are massive. You could drive one or two double-decker buses in there. Uh, and what we're using on AI is we're optimizing how the baking oven is loaded and optimize its running with the production line requirements, and massively reducing the CO2 emissions and the energy consumption. So we're trying to drive using AI not only to improve performance or quality, but also at the same time, um, which is really important, and then is to drive down CO2 emissions and help with climate. And the same with you spoke right at the beginning about having really exciting LLMs with many, many, many billions of parameters.
parameters.
Um, if you always run every solution on such a big LLM, which needs to be hosted in a big data center and all the cooling that's required for those data centers, do you actually need each time the Rolls Royce, or do you know what, a Mini might work just as well, and we'll put it on the edge, and it doesn't need the massive cooling requirements of a big data center, and it's a lot more efficient in terms of its energy consumption. CO2 emissions, etc. So I think that's very much our kind of our focus is far more on that practical AI and implementing solutions which 99% of the industry can use today, rather than I'd love to. I know some of our engineers would love us to be at the bleeding edge, but we're not there. That's not our kind of remit. Our remit is on how do we take functional AI today that deliver practical AI solutions that benefit the customer and the environment today.
Well, Digica is already definitely on the cutting edge of the innovation. You are delivering the projects for tens of millions of dollars, so it already means something. And as I understand from your response, your goal is rather go on with bringing AI into the world. So from just ephemeral concepts to tangible solutions for businesses, particularly for manufacturers, and not only, but including those, because that's definitely, even though we as consumers can we get the products just presented to us. I don't know if you go to the store which sells some tech devices, you just see this laptop. But what makes up the price of the laptop, its availability, etc., etc., is how it's been manufactured at the factory itself. And yeah, yeah. So the the mission which Digica is on is fantastic because if you and you are working with medical companies and are you working with manufacturers of medicines?
Not yet, but on Friday I was talking with a manufacturer was looking at using computer vision to analyze files of that they were sending out, looking at them from a color and looking for any contamination in them. But we're not currently working with any medical manufacturers.
Mhm.
But if anyone is watching who's in a medical manufacturing
Yeah,
company and would like to kind of reach out for some advice, then I'd be more than happy to have a chat
yeah,
and help them.
yeah, and I will mention this at the end of the call as well. All links to Soren's social media, LinkedIn, and the Digica social media are in the description. All
Great.
right, all right, and actually there was some agenda for this podcast, and surprisingly we are following it, even though I'm not trying to do it super strictly. Mm, okay, and mm, I think the next question could be could be whether Digica is looking into expanding into the other industries. So I don't know, perhaps I well for me hospitality would be something what I know, but maybe
It, yeah,
tourism or whatever.
it's hard to choose something totally different because you don't have a backstory. So, if I was pitching to a customer about manufacturing or medical, etc., I could also then show not only these are great words, but hey, look, here are the 300 projects that we've delivered so far to date. Here's this three in manufacturing that are relevant to your use case, etc. So if all of a sudden I moved into hospitality, so what could I do in hospitality? Well, maybe I could do face recognition and detection. So maybe if I'm running, we've got a face detection and recognition that we built and as part of our AI SDK. But if I was working into hospitality, maybe if I was thinking it was a hotel, so a hotel will say, how do I improve the guest experience? Maybe if I did face detection and recognition, I could show them that, and then we could expand and say, hey, listen, this is Max. Max, maybe he's registered online and he's scanned his passport photo. Uh, Maybe then I can recognize it, and it can come up, whether it's on the receptionist's glasses, and it comes up and it says, hey, this is Max. He's due to book in, and goes into the system and say, so I can say, hi, Max, welcome to Hilton Honors in Cambridge, for example. So there are ways that I think some of our technology can go across different markets. But for us, that kind of going out into the hospitality thing is not an area that we have a lot of domain experience in. But if a hospitality company comes to see us with some ideas about things, we might have some parallels. So it's a matter for us to focus on what we're really good at, in defense, medical, and smart manufacturing. And if opportunities come up, so for example, we're working with two agricultural companies, where we're bringing all their data together, and creating that data platform for them. Uh, Personally, I didn't think carrot growing was going to be that complex. Wow, it's more complex than you possibly can imagine, and same with farming. There's so many variabilities in there that it becomes a really kind of quite an area of expertise. So we kind of got a couple of agricultural customers. We've got one particular customer is an immigration lawyer. So we are expanding out, but it's more of those people have come to us rather than us going out with a story to, as you said, for example, hospitality. If then someone said to me, hey, which
Yeah.
hotels do you work with? Well, we don't work with a hotel at the moment, but we've got this idea and that idea that we could put together. But what we're hoping for is that, as we build
Mhm.
this AI SDK, and potentially we'll make it available as a software service. So we'll make it the SaaS model. And it was interesting that when I was talking about that medical tray company that we've done, when they take a picture of that. Um, One of the things that they want to actually look at is with some of their customers is say, instead of us doing all the training ourselves, can we make that available as a software service where they provide they have access to the system. They upload the 3D CAD files for the tool. Um, they upload some real imagery of that tool and tell it obviously which tray it needs to go in, etc. And then the system automatically then creates the synthetic data images for that, automatically trains the detector. They've uploaded not only real data for training, but they've also uploaded test data for us to test against those images. It then goes through the testing process and it comes up and says, hey, we achieved the accuracy and the recall levels that you wanted in terms of precision. And then they just simply hit a button and it gets moved over to the mobile app that runs sort. Or maybe it doesn't, it fails. And it's like, hey, by the way, change some of the parameters, use the AI then to say, hey, change some of the parameters on the synthetic data to have X, Y, Z and improve X, Y, Z. And then they can be trained, and maybe it's a really tough item and still fails. Maybe then you need to get a data scientist, those ones. But they are looking at that. Can we give this to our customer as a software as a service where we charge them a license for the core underlying platform, and then they go on and do the training themselves. I've got a new tray, I've got a new tool. I just want to be able to do it myself. So that's a way that we're kind of looking at moving on that front.
Mhm. All right. So I wanted to ask, so what is the example of use case in the agricultural industry? And you basically explained it now, the generation of appropriate samples when I think defining the I am too incompetent in this industry say something specific, but the generation
So,
of the synthetic data would be the most, at least the use case Digica has found is in demand in the agricultural industry, isn't it?
in all industries, so everything from it could be in defense. Yep. So you maybe you're trying to detect I don't know uh, a drone from China or Russia. There aren't lots of pictures of them.
Mhm.
So whatever pictures you can do, can you then create that synthetically so that they can start to train the detector on lots of images, etc. So it could be in that. It could be, as you said, in everything. It could be having strawberries. You know, you've got strawberries being
Yes.
packed and picked, and you want to teach it to look for um, bruised parts, or it could be in a poultry processing where you've got chicken breasts on a being put on, inspect them before we put breadcrumbs on them and prepare them for sale. And you're looking for maybe you're looking visually for bones. Obviously, there might be bones inside, so maybe you might use X-ray for that. But on the synthetic data, you're then looking for bruising and blood spots, etc. And you'll then use that synthetic data to create those bruises and those blood spots and train the detector on. So it's everything from that through to, I don't know, let's just say that it was a high-end luxury car automaker and they were looking at the quality of the stitching on the seats. And they can show you a
Mm,
perfect one, and then they might still have the one that you sewed and made a right mess up. And they'll say, if you ever see one like this, don't do it. But they've only got one bad employee. But now they employ me, and maybe I didn't listen so much to the training and my stitching is wrong. So, but there with synthetic, you can start to create even something that's a very high end and show the anomalies on that. So this is where that kind of synthetic data, I think, comes really to the fore. So it's on that, and then things like manufacturing. Maybe it's something as simple as a headlamp unit for a car, and this company is building headlamp units. So you could have a visual inspection, and you could teach it to have a look for, I don't know, always make sure that the part number is engraved on the top right hand side because maybe the engraving machine doesn't skips it or something. So that's easy enough to do. But then you'll be looking at maybe scratches on the lens or contamination inside the headlamp unit, or maybe the hot glue that's used to seal it. You'll be looking for stuff. So they'll show you the perfect, and then you'll be using the synthetic to start to create the imperfections that you kind of there. They'll have some imperfections they'll show you real pictures of, but many times, yeah, we did have a load of ones where the glue was running down, but we never took a picture of them. You know, we put them in the skip and got rid of them. So you need to use the
mm.
synthetic. So I think synthetic visual data is super important in many aspects of computer vision.
Soren?
What? Yeah,
Yeah,
I can hear you.
th- there was some network issue. I don't know,
Okay.
perhaps from my side. Mhm. Yeah. Okay, so we can say that synthetic data is rather mm, in demand in all industries because it allows to improve the creation of all sorts of things because of the way to generate the quote unquote ideal samples.
Yeah, and with
Dear viewers, that's the perfect time for you to press the like button and perhaps leave the comment. And me, your loyal servant, host of this podcast, will figure out what has occurred. We are not done yet, but I am highly encouraging you to press the like button and subscribe. in case you wanna get more talks with $1 million CEOs. All right, we are back with even more interesting insights. And we have already talked about many interesting things from the life of the person 200 years ago to how synthetic data is transforming the way companies operate nowadays. And actually, it will be an it is a wonderful moment to talk about the future of AI and machine learning businesses. So, Soren, for you as the veteran in the space, what do you think is the path for some young people, maybe not that young people, but whoever is new to the tech industry and is thinking about creating something cool with AI, what he should study and in which direction move?
Um, I'm probably not the best person to tell you which topics to go off and study. But certainly, head of data science, Wukash, he has a list of, I think it's 8 or 12 subjects, which are the core basics of data science. And we get a lot of very young and talented and enthusiastic boys and girls that come through into our what we call our Digica AI Academy. Um, but those basic tenets need to be studied and learnt before they kind of go on to um, the more advanced and the super sexy and the new stuff. Because he's quite rightly, I think, believes that actually, yes, it's phenomenal what the latest technology is doing, but you don't.
I'm very sorry for interruption. There was little in network issue. What can you repeat the name of the person you are talking about?
Yes, certainly. So it's Wukash, who's our head of data science, and Wukash is um, a guy who's been working in tech for the last 20 years. So for you, he's old. For me, he's just early 40s, so he's still young. But um, we have an AI academy where we bring all the young, bright, talented, and enthusiastic people into our AI academy, and they go through a 12-month kind of learning process. A lot of it's on the job, but there are a number of key elements. If I remember correctly, there's about 8 kind of core levels of functionality that we want you to understand and learn about. And once those are done, then we kind of carry on and go to the more advanced bit. But if I look at the people's background, one thing I think that is kind of very key, that when I look at the engineers who are more successful are the ones that also understand how good software is written, because at the end of the day, AI is software. So there's no point creating models which work exceptionally well on written in Python. They work exceptionally well on a GPU, but the target hardware is a little camera, so it needs to
Yeah,
be optimized. And then when you ask that old-fashioned thing of saying, show me the code, show me the comments on the code. Is there the software architecture? Has it been designed? What's the design? And certainly when you start to look forward at AI regulation, they're very much looking to understand what's the model, how was it trained, etc. So you're looking for some historical stuff. So I think that for me is something that if I was a young person coming into this, thinking, what am I going to study at university? And I'm going to try and study some really cool data science, and I totally support youngsters looking at the sexiest and the most wonderful stuff, but also don't forget the basics. And if you can actually be a really good software engineer in Python, um, and you have that same methodology that traditionally we would have seen in a software engineer in terms of documenting elements, etc., because this is what it's going to be. I mean, the days of AI being proof of concept, that's a really interesting thing. Max wants to see something happen. Yeah, here, Max, we've cobbled this together. Oh, wow, that's really good. I'll show the board that. But now it's getting to, I'm actually going to implement it in my hospital, or I'm going to implement this in my manufacturing system. I want to understand how the application was built, how is it going to interface, how do I support it going forward? Is it only going to be um, Digica that's going to be looking after it? And if it's only ever been built by Max, and Max has never written anything down, when it comes to there's a problem with it, Max is on another particular project and it's someone else. If it's not being properly documented, how the hell can someone else try and support it?
Yeah.
And it's the usual thing that, if you look at your code that you wrote 2 years ago and say, oh, could you have a look at this? Who wrote that? Well, you did, Max. You wrote that too. Oh, really? That's terrible. I wouldn't have written rubbish like that. And this is something that I think, um, young talented engineers still need to kind of remember the kind of engineering principles. I don't think they've kind of gone away, and I think that's kind of core to people. And I think AI will become just part of software. It's going to be just a solution that we kind of provide rather than a thing which is like here's AI and here's software, and the two are very different. It is a total systems integration. And so that very much those kind of skills I would learn, certainly programming skills, and certainly there's some Python. Obviously, at the moment is very much a foundation language in AI. But and we've been doing some stuff with there's an application called Executorch, which is PyTorch, but even further on the edge. And I think that's going to be very much the future. A lot of the AI to be driven on the edge, whether it's running with Executorch on a mobile phone, on a pair of glasses, on a headphone, for
Yeah.
example. This is where that AI will start to come in. That software will start to be being deployed on things which are actually on the edge, on the actual device, rather than having to go off to the cloud, connect to the cloud, and then process it and give you the result back.
hmm hmm So you would recommend the person who is starting out to not being blinded with flashy things, but do not dismiss software development
Software
education.
development and the basics of AI disciplines. And then, of course, I'm very much supportive of cool new ideas and new things coming through. They're absolutely kind of key to where the industry is going. But also remember the core principles don't change. I don't think, good software engineering will apply to AI applications that you're building.
hmm And you mentioned that mostly AI models will be deployed in the little devices. Well, little, I mean, solely by the size. Well, not necessarily, because you will have a speaking fridge in the nearest future, so it's not necessarily a small mm, product which you
But
use, but the essence of your message is that it's important to optimize the model to be suitable to be deployed on the chip in glasses or maybe on the earbuds. So yeah, that's something to look forward into.
and yeah, so I think on the edge is where a lot of tech will be deployed. You're seeing that more and more. In a production line, if you've got a camera looking at things going underneath, if it's simply just taking a picture and then trying to connect to AWS or and then process it and come back, the item is gone. You know,
Hmm.
that's fine if it's I don't need it. You know, maybe it's a matter of I'm counting strawberries, for example. You know, someone's going along picking strawberries, but I'm counting all the unpicked strawberries, etc. Maybe I can just simply record that video and then upload it to the AWS or Azure and then process it and then come back with the answer the next morning and say, hey, I've counted all the strawberries that are in your hothouse. You know, you've got 50,000 strawberries of them. These are the maturity of them, etc. It doesn't need to happen immediately, but you know, everything from self-driving cars, that's happening on the edge. You know, that is happening there and then. There's no processing going off. It's happening on the
Yeah,
actual
yeah.
in device. So I think, you know, everything from those very high tech like the self-driving car through to something which is, I don't know, could be as simple as, you know, stock counting in hospitals. You know, you've gone into that hospital storeroom and the reps meant to count all the boxes with these orthopedic joints. Now at the moment they go and scan each box kind of stuff. Maybe they forget to scan a box, but there's no connection in that storeroom, and they just want to be able to take a picture and then process it on the system on the actual phone, or using something like Executor's running it, etc. And then we'll say there's 27 boxes. I've counted all the boxes, etc. And this is the result, and then it pushes the information through. But things should happen, I think, far more on the edge. And I think, you know, if people are smart and how they build and conceive those use cases and the technology behind it, they can actually make it much lighter and much smaller, and use less energy.
Hmm. Got it. And I think it would be a great question to wrap up our podcast with. In this world with of advanced AI on almost every stage of our life, what is even the role of human? Just spectate how everything is being served to
Well,
you, or setting up those AI systems again and again, or what?
I still believe there is. We look at and there's predictions. You know, AI is going to take over this. I'm very old. I'm 55 years old. But when I was growing up, people told me that, you know, hey, take a little. You wouldn't have to bother cooking. You'd take a little tablet, and this has all the nutrients and vitamins, etc. And you just take a tablet. But the whole thing of people like food more now. You know, there's more time spent on food and the different taste sensations, etc. Uh, and so I see this with AI that, you know, that the whole thing that you won't have to do chores. There'll be robots that will do all your washing for you and everything else. Yeah, there will be technology improvements, but I think actually having a robot that does everything for you in the house and you don't have anything else to do is a long time away. The shorter working week is an interesting thing that, you know, I can see that potentially might be something that happens, you know, that we don't need to work 40 hours a week. We only work 30 hours a week, maybe, because we've got other things. And maybe we use AI to do um, the more monotonous, the more routine tasks of doing stuff. So, you know, if I look at my job, I probably spend some time just doing administration, you know, proving things, saying yes to no things that maybe that's the type of stuff which AI should be doing. And what it should probably still be is, um, you know, people buy from people. Yeah, still, and it was interesting. I was
Yeah,
just before our
absolutely.
call. I spoke to someone who met one of our partners in at Embedded World in Nuremberg, and he said, "Hey, here's his business card. He's looking for some AI to help with some yacht navigation." I gave him a call and then said, "Hey, yeah, are you at Embedded World?" No, I'm in San Francisco. I'm not in Germany, in Nuremberg. But my colleague Jim Carroll, our CTO, is in there. Maybe you two would like to meet, try and find some time to meet tomorrow in person. I said, I'm a sweet old fashioned thing. I still prefer to meet in person. And he said, I'm 32 years old, so I'm not so old like you, but I still like to meet in person. So maybe that's that kind of still element of, that building that relationship and having that relationship with the customers is still very much a personal element. And if I had AI take away a lot of the other elements, I'm spending far much more time uh, being able to talk with customers, but also talk with my own team and help build my own team's skills and elements. People still, I think, still need that human touch and that kind of motivation and help them kind of grow to the next few levels. So I see very much AI will take over some some elements, more of the routine that the those elements, but it should allow humans still, I think, to hopefully have a better quality of life, and also be able to do more productive, more creative, more human elements of your job.
hmm
So, um, I'm sure your listeners would prefer to hear someone real talking rather than, hey, here's Max. He's asked the bot these 5 questions, and they've come back with this is what it is. So I think people still prefer to hear that emotion and build that connection.
Okay, so if I understood your message correctly, you think that as uh, the life got easier from your childhood, some change was that people wait. Okay, I just tried to compile it correctly in my mind in my LLM. So essentially, you think that the way people started creating more culture around more things which were earlier for survival. So let's say food. Now it's more about taste, about the way to present it. So as other things such as washing and I don't know, doing your dishes will also follow, people will spend even more time on some creative tasks instead of those which are just to sort of serve your daily routine.
Indeed,
hmm
quality of life should get better. So uh, yeah. So some of the administration tasks will get taken out of your life, which will be good. Allow you to have more time to sit down with the family and enjoy a meal and talk. And I think that will probably help society. I'm a very big believer in that kind of sitting down around a table and sharing a meal. I know it's a very much. I see that in Denmark very much. I see that in France very much. That kind of coming together as a family and sitting down. That whole thing of breaking bread together and sharing a meal and just talking and just what's your day been like? What's happening in your world, etc. I think that would be good for families and they're less stressed and they've got more time to actually have that sit down meal.
hmm And these conversations will be less filled with who's gonna get groceries tomorrow, but more with some other kinds of topics. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like we use like probably many other people. We use you order your groceries or groceries delivered to your house. Um, but that's great for things like tins of baked beans and commodities. But on Saturday we enjoy walking to the farmers market, speaking to the farmers who've been producing their oranges or the lemons or the pistachios, etc., and buying them individually from there. Um, and so you don't have to bother with that weekly shop going out to the supermarket. It's being delivered to your house, but you then have quality time to go and do something that you particularly are interested in, whether it's finding the locally sourced meat or vegetables or whatever. So I think that's a kind of an improvement in human life.
Yeah. Yeah, that absolutely is. I'm sure that it presents new forms of challenges, but they are much more higher quality problems than survival issues.
Indeed.
Okay, I think that's a great point to end the main part of the podcast. Do you want to add something? Is there anything what you think our listeners would benefit from, or you just want to say? If yes,
No, I think I've covered, it's been an enjoyable conversation, and hopefully it's helpful and insightful to you and to your followers. And if anyone has any questions, etc., just please feel free to reach out. Happy to take any questions and help them in the future. Thank you very much for your time.
thanks a lot, and press the like button if you like this podcast. Leave the comment, and you can check out Digica's and Soren's LinkedIn and other sources by following the links in the description below. Thank you, and have a
Cheers.
great day.
Bye.